modesty. What's that all about? Well, it really can change everything in your life. And the toughest thing sometimes is to learn even how to be honest with yourself. How can you tell things are out of alignment for yourself? And the things that I noticed is I'll start going into different levels of trauma when things aren't going well. I'll start eating junk food at nighttime. I won't feed myself properly. I do not get right sleeps. I start having really, really poor dreams. My self-talk starts getting negative. I feel my frequency dropping regularly, and I have to practice really hard to not loop into this trauma that I'm experiencing and trying to process and work through. So I found crying was a great place to start with me, as I find tears allow me just to release what's bothering me without even having to name it. Now, not everyone just jumps into tears and super emotional, and that's okay. I would also tend to sometimes starting in journaling, and I'll be playing music when I'm journaling about my feelings, and interestingly enough, what's going on in my feelings often comes up in the music that I'm listening to, which will set me off, and then I'll start crying again. So try listening to music when you're journaling, and listen to what comes up and see if there's any messages for you that's working using your clairaudient gifts. Now, I would journal my thoughts and my feelings in absolutely every perspective to see what is going on with myself, to be able to feel what needs to change and shift. So I want to just talk about an experience I had to give more understanding of how challenging this can be. I have had some absolutely amazing friends in my life, and even though I love this person so much, I didn't know how to tell this person that they were hurting me, and I didn't know how. I was scared to tell the person as well, because sometimes when they got upset, they would get extra emotional and then create energy and then send it to me as they're talking to me, and it broke me down even further, and even more afraid to say anything because I was terrified of what would happen if I did. And so I would run away and go to the forest, and I'd go cry, and I'd go talk to myself and lick my wounds and figure out what am I going to do, if I should how do I approach this, what's the best way, and then I won't sleep for about 3 or 4 days, and I'll have nightmares. I'm not sure if you ever notice this, but I tend to get nightmares or really messed up sleeping when I'm trying to process something that's bothering me, that's really affecting me. I start going into looping. Do you guys ever go into looping? Because I go into looping. And what happens is I'll replay that experience in my head over and over and over again, and then get upset every time I play it. And then I'll catch myself playing the same broken record over and over again until I'm like, okay, how many more times do I need to say this to myself? How many more times do I have to go through these feelings? How many more times am I going to keep doing this to myself? What am I going to do about it? So the first step I had to do was journal and write down all my feelings, because I know once you say something to somebody, you can't really take it back. So it's easier to write it in your journal to figure it out. And as I'm writing it, I'm seeing myself from all different perspectives, and what's the perspective of the person that's also going through hurt and pain towards myself, and what's from that person's perspective, and well, what's my perspective, and then what's the outside perspective, and how many different portholes can you see this from? And I've been practicing turning it upside down to see where within myself is this triggering me, and why am I being triggered, and where is this taking me, and how many times have I been triggered before, and how many other times have I gone through this experience, and how many other times have I been trying to learn this? And when you think that you had learned it, another experience comes up. And so with this completely dear friend of mine, I had to tell the soul how I felt, how it made me feel, where I felt I was being treated unfairly, poorly, words that were said that I didn't feel were appropriate, all of those things. And I was absolutely terrified. I was terrified that I had to end this friendship. I was terrified that this person I love is going to be out of my life now. But I'm like, if I don't love myself and they're not really showing me that they love me by doing this behavior, and maybe they don't even realize they're doing it, I had to realize that maybe they honestly didn't know, or they're also practicing that's their hard one too, right? So having compassion for both sides of the experience, because this human is amazing and this is something we need to work through. And so we both took a break from each other's friendship for a while, because the friend was upset with me about some things and I was upset with the friend about some things. And we both realized that even though we both may have done things that maybe caused trauma on both sides, that either way, we truly love each other, and that we missed each other when we took a separation for a little while, and realized that my points were valid and the soul's points were also valid, but they were upset about. And because we both took that time to look at that and evaluate that, our friendship has never been so strong. And I was always afraid of what will happen when I speak my truth. What will happen? Well, do you know what happens? You get treated better, and your boundaries aren't crossed, and you're respected, and your truth with self changes, and how you feel about yourself also shifts, and what you allow into your experience of your embodiment also changes. And it happens right away, I noticed as well, when I started taking care of myself and taking care of my feelings. And this didn't just relate to one friend. This had to do with a living situation. This had to do with a employment situation. This is all different aspects of my life. I was learning to set boundaries. And even though a few years back I had the great honor of going to court to get a restraining order from someone, thinking, wow, I'm doing really well. I'm speaking my truth to a judge now and making sure that this abuse doesn't happen anymore, and feeling, okay, I got this. And then boom, you get something else, not as severe, not as intense, thank goodness, but emotionally dilapidating nonetheless, and allows you to really check in to see what's going on with you. And I'm still practicing boundaries. I'm still practicing speaking my truth, and I'm still receiving opportunities to do it. But every time I do it, I don't shake as much. I'm stronger in my validity, and I'm able to share my truth in a way that makes sense, and coming from a state of observation and the facts that I've observed, and coming from that perspective has really made a huge difference on how I communicate my boundaries. So that was my hard one. What's your hard one? What are you working on that's hard for you? Because I promise you, everyone's hard one is their hard one. And as you work through it, it gets easier. And then you can bring in new experiences. And I've learned that I ask for lessons in compassion, or I'll ask lessons in learning how to do boundaries. And that is another way to kind of shift and shape your growth of what you want to work on for embodiment experiences, to grow as the beautiful human form of soul that you are, that's limitless and ever so powerful in this three-dimensional body. So I wanted to share that with you, and wondered, what's going on with you? What are your steps? What do you do to help yourself grow? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And don't forget to press subscribe. And I look forward to sharing with you more wisdom that will help your soul grow. This is Real Talk with Kerrilynn.